Hello there, my little friends. How are you today? Welcome to yet another exciting episode of Tell Me a Story.
Hi, I'm Neville and my wife Carol.
And we are here to take you, in fact, to journey along with you on this marvelous journey through the stories from the Holy Bible itself. Now, many of you, I'm sure, are very curious to know what happened to Joseph's interpretation of the dream. I too am very excited to tell you what really happened and how did the king react. So should I begin, Neville?
No. We need to sign ourselves in first.
Yes, definitely.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you for reminding me of that, Neville. So children, Joseph in today's episode, as you will see, is going to be having a turn of events. Like I told you last time, Joseph told the king what his dream of the 7 fat cows and 7 thin cows and the crops meant. When the king of Egypt heard Joseph explain his dream to him, he was horrified. Now it is but natural. Most of us would get so worried if someone were to deliver to us some bad news. Like Neville said previously that he would be excited and think forward, I'm sure I would react like the king. But the king got into thinking. 7 years of plentiful harvest sounded very good to him. But then again, the 7 years that would follow of shortage, he knew would bring with it a lot of death and famine. And ultimately, it would ruin his kingdom. Joseph, on the other hand, had a very interesting proposal. He thought very much like how Neville thought previously. He asked if he could suggest something that he's been thinking of. The king allowed Joseph to speak. Now, Joseph's suggestion was as follows. He asked the king to choose one of his men and put that man in charge of all the food supplies. This particular supervisor can be in charge of storing the grains when the 7 years of bumper crop come. In this way, there will be enough food for all the people in the kingdom for the years to come, even when the crops will fail. And so, no one in the Egyptian king's kingdom will ever starve. The king was very pleased with Joseph's advice. Very impressive, isn't it? He immediately announced that why look for any other man? Joseph should be that man who governs the storing and the distribution of crops. He called Joseph his new prime minister. And it was also very fair because Joseph was so wise in thinking ahead of the times. Now kids, our new prime minister was given his own new chariot, rich clothes and jewels, and even servants of his own. Joseph had learned to trust God and to do his work well. Even when he was sold as a slave and even when he was in the prison, he never lost hope. He kept his eyes set on God's promises and on God's faithfulness. Now Joseph was about to undertake these important duties of being a prime minister in exactly the same way. Joseph got to travel the length and breadth of Egypt. In every city, Joseph gave orders for huge storage buildings to be put up in order for the grains to be stored for these 7 years. The 7 years of prosperity went by very smoothly, and Joseph made arrangements for the storage of the famine years to come as well. So now, when the lean and hungry years came and no crops grew anywhere, Joseph was busier than ever. He was selling grains and also seeing to it that this grain that he sells is shared out fairly. Not only the people in Egypt, but also the countrymen from nearby provinces, from the nearby countries who were also affected by famine, came to Joseph to buy grain from him, to take it back to their own homelands. Interestingly now, children, Jacob and his sons, who were back in the land of Canaan, they were also not spared of this famine. Jacob had heard that far away in Egypt, there is some prime minister or a governor who has a lot of grain available. So he asked his sons to go to Egypt and buy some for his family. All the brothers set out except for young Benjamin. Now Jacob could never bear to be separated from his darling Benjamin. You know why? Because Benjamin was the only child remaining of his beloved Rachel, the wife whom Jacob loved a lot. So the older 10 brothers took upon this journey and went to Egypt. Upon reaching there, they were ushered into the Prime Minister's presence. Now, who's the Prime Minister? Our Joseph. But the brothers did not recognize him. In fact, they had no clue who he was. Besides that, they never expected their brother Joseph, whom they had sold as a slave to the passers-by, to become an important person in Egypt. Joseph too, now being the Prime Minister, was dressed like an Egyptian man. And you know how dressed Egyptians were in those days. They had a lot of colorful outfit and all, much unlike the Canaanites, much unlike the Israelites. So it was very difficult to recognize that this man could be someone our own. Joseph, on the other hand, took one look and he knew that these were his brothers. In that instant, he very sternly asked them, "Where have you come from?" All of them in unison replied, "We have come from Canaan. We have come here to buy some grain." Joseph discarded their demand and said, "I don't believe a word that you say. I think that you are a bunch of spies. Tell me more about yourselves." No, we are not spies," the brothers replied. "We are very honest men. We were 12 brothers. One of our brothers, however, is dead. And the youngest one is so dear to our father that our father would never let him go out of sight." Now Joseph, upon hearing this, felt very strange because he heard them say that their brother was dead and he knew it is he they are referring to. However, Joseph tried to conceal his feelings. He demanded that they bring that youngest brother in order to prove that what they are telling is the truth and to prove that they are innocent. Until then, Joseph said, "I will keep one of you as a hostage here." So Simeon was taken away and put into prison. In exchange for, he wanted to see if their story is true. So the other brothers returned back to Canaan without Simeon, but with sacks full of grains.
So children, it's quiz time now.
Wow.
I have a set of questions for them. Can I ask them?
Of course, why not?
First, who was made the Prime Minister in Egypt? That's the first question for you. You can answer that and your parents will check on you. The second question, how many years of famine were there? The third question, and remember this, very important, which was the brother that was left back in prison? And children, if you get this right, I would request all the parents to give you a small chocolate.
Very nice, Neville. And very nice to you too, parents. Keep that candy ready, for I'm sure many of you are going to get it right. The story was interesting, wasn't it?
Very nice, very nice.
But it's not over. There's more to the story. But before we tell you what happens next, we want to take your leave for today and wish you all the best. We'll see you next time. Until then, God bless you and goodbye.
Goodbye.